Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with expert and author on job reframing and peace of mind expert, Mette Reebirk. As an inspiring author and executive coach, she has dedicated over 2 decades to helping experienced leaders realize their true potential and free themselves from anxiety. She's come to see that for all people, the human life force emerges when inner peace reveals itself by questioning our thoughts about reality. Clients that work with her often have a moment of clarity that allows them to rewrite the script they've been living by recognizing their power over how they view themselves and their circumstances. These courageous individuals will then unlock inner positivity and kindness, promising significant changes in their life. She's a great interview. Enjoy. What I want to know first, before we get into your life and your work, is we've gone through quite a thing with COVID worldwide, and I'm curious how you survived that time period and how it's changed the way that you live your life now.
Yeah, COVID, it's almost, so far away now, so it really didn't change much. I had a lot of Zoom meetings, but I already had that also before Corona. And but maybe what changed is that people started to reflect differently about how they live their life. A lot of my customers, they started because they worked at home, they got closer to their family and to, the everyday life. And that maybe, I think that has changed mindset for quite some people. And maybe that is also one of the reasons why we see what, I don't know if you have heard about it, quiet, when people, they just go to work and they just do what they need to do, not much more, and then they go home and live their life. I think it's called silent quitting or quiet quitting or something like that. People started to think about how they want to live their life, what is meaningful for them and what isn't.
And I think that's the thing that's very key about what you're doing is there has been a crossroads with people where they're trying to figure out how they want to live their lives, what they want to do with their lives. So I would imagine your business is probably better than ever.
It's pretty good, yeah, it is. And, what I also started to think about is that, a lot of people, regardless of, how they live their life, they create a lot of problems for themselves by what they think about reality, about Corona, about when they're getting fired or laid off or, divorces, whatever. A lot of things happen, while living. and then you create a lot of stories about what is going on. Corona, yeah, it was a huge problem and there were a lot of people who died. And on the other hand, there were also good things, not because of Corona, but because people changed how they, worked, so they could spend more time home. But we don't see that actually, because we are so focused on believing what we think about, reality. And that is why I wrote a book about our thinking and how our thoughts create our feelings. And, our feelings is what we react upon. And often, Corona and what happens, it is, of course, a problem. But what we think about Corona is an even bigger problem than Corona itself. When we try to fight against reality, we have not only one problem, we have 2 problems. Because we have the problem the real problem, and then we have the problem that we create in our heads through the story we tell ourselves. And my customers, my clients, they are so tired of being worried.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of people, they have, actually, they don't need to be worried because they are okay.
Yeah.
But they tell themselves that they are not okay. And then, of course, they feel that they are not okay because, when a thought creates a feeling and you can feel it, you can, heartbeats and you can almost not breathe, maybe. Then you think that what you are believing is true because you can feel it. But we are not our thoughts. We are not our feelings. We have thoughts. We have around 60,000 a day. But we don't know that. So when we attach to what we are thinking about reality, then we really create a lot of, bad things in our life. So I really want to help people experience not to be so worried because actually there's not so many, they don't need to be worried.
Yeah, no, I get that. So let's get to the essence of what you do, exactly what you do. I want to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a grade school for career day. One of the children looks up and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. First of all, good questions, you need to think a little deeper about coming up with an answer. What I do for a living is that I help people not worry.
So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up?
In third grade, what did I want to be? I don't think that I knew anything about that. I was just curious. I have always been, the curious George, asking questions, annoying people with all my questions. So I just wanted to experience, and that's still who I am. I'm not a title. I'm not what I'm earning or where I'm living. I'm the person observing what's going on in my life, because everything changes. In third grade, you have one mindset. In 2 years' time, you will have another mindset. So the most important is just to be curious. So how to nurture a curiosity, not being afraid of asking questions, not afraid of trying out stuff, not afraid of, if someone say, all your stupid questions, it's okay to ask questions. Be curious. I would actually be a little worried if someone in third grade would know exactly what she wanted to become as a grown-up.
Yeah.
Because how can she know?
Yeah, absolutely. So who's been a role model or a hero for you in your life?
My parents and my twin brother, whom I lost when we were 23 years old. I have met a lot of very interesting people in my life. And actually, I have had also a lot of very bad leaders, really bad leaders. And after, 4, I decided that every time I experienced something that I didn't like, I decided that one day when I became a leader, I would do the opposite of what I experienced. So, we are surrounded by teachers, and I have all my life been a student and a teacher. So I think that, I believe that I have many role models, but someone who is behaving in a very bad way can actually also be a teacher for how not to be.
Yeah, an example of what not to be, absolutely. So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and have some time with them to talk with them, who would it be?
Actually, I would love to meet Obama.
Yeah, me too.
But actually, I have met interesting people. For instance, as a small story, one time I went to New York and I was queuing in Macy's, and suddenly this lady came by and she looked at me and then she said, "There's an old soul in a young body." And then she asked me if I knew what a shaman was, and I said yes. And then she said, "You will become very old." And then her cell phone rang and she said, "Okay, I need to take this, I'll be back." I never saw her again.
Wow.
A couple of years after, in China, I met a priest, a Taoistic priest, and he stopped me and he looked at me, he touched my front head, and then he said, I had my employee with me, she was Chinese, and then he said, "This white-haired lady, she will become very old." And then again, for a couple of years ago, in Copenhagen, in a bus, this old guy looked at me and he told me just the same. So 3 places in the world, someone has told me, "You will become very old." And after the third one, I realized that I had unconsciously been afraid of dying young, maybe because of my twin brother. So I decided to let go of this thought, this story I told myself about reality, the future, which I don't know anything about. No one knows anything about the future. To let go of that. So, we meet people. Actually, I think that we meet people when we need to meet them.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's a great lead into my next question, which is, if you had a dream tonight and you ran into the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've lived, the wisdom that you've gained, what would you tell your young version?
Not to worry so much.
Every day you wake up, you have things that you want to do and accomplish. What is it that motivates you to do your work, to do the things that you do every day?
Curiosity about life. I'm almost 60 now, and what was important to me 20 years ago, it doesn't really matter today. Today it's much more about, being present, and be curious about, the essence of happiness, of life. I'm not so busy achieving a lot of stuff. I want to be present and to it's like music, real music. It's in the pauses, it's in between the notes, right?
Yeah.
And life, it's really when we become still. Yeah. My curiosity is blooming about life.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be here? Experiencing, to have this experience, amazing. And then, people die and we meet sorrow and I have old parents, one day they will not be here any longer, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It is. It is. You know, when you look back on your life at this point, what are you the proudest of that you've done?
My family. I have 3 kids. I have a grandchild. Yeah. And all the people I have maybe made a little impact on. And I have had I've treated my life with respect, enjoyed my life, but especially my kids and yeah, my grandchild.
Yeah. So everyone out there has an idea of who they think you are, perception of you, your family, your friends, clients. But you live your life. Who do you think you are?
I'm an observer. I'm the one who is observing what's going on in my life. You know, when we become still and we listen to what's going on in our mind, there's someone who's asking all the questions. There's another one answering it. And then there's a third one maybe, standing, looking at those two, having a very nice conversation. And then there's you, Joe, trying to get a little, footstep into what's going on in my mind. And I'm still the one observing all this. So I'm an observer.
I like that.
My life.
Yeah, that's great. You know, one of my main vocations that I do podcasting-wise is a jazz radio show here in Kansas City. And the master of jazz, my son, actually, my only son, Miles, is named after Miles Davis. Yeah, the thing about Miles Davis that was so amazing that people may not realize, and I've gleaned this from all my interviews about musicians that have played with him, is that he was an amazing listener. He listened all the time, and that's like a hallmark of who he was. And it kind of leads into what you're saying about being an observer. Sometimes I think it's better for us to stop talking and putting it out there and just observe what's going on around us. So I really like that notion. It makes a lot of sense to me. So for anyone out there that wants to learn more about you as an author, your books, being an expert on job reframing, peace of mind, where's the best place for them to go on the web and to find out anything more or hire you?
LinkedIn.
Okay.
I would love to link up with who may be interested. And of course, I would love people to go on Amazon and find my books. And my last one, The Tipping Point, Life Force comes from questioning your thoughts. I know that when people read it who have an open mind and really a curiosity, they will get really some gold nuggets that will help them release much more of what they contain, that can help them in also tough times.
Wonderful. This has been great. I love your stories. I love your optimism. Thank you for opening up. Good luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you, and the same to you and yours.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.